Hello, beautifuls. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to talk today a little bit about definitions, and in particular, the definitions we have about who we are. Now, the dictionary defines definition as a statement of exact meaning. So when we define ourselves, we give meaning to our experiences. In essence, the definitions of ourselves create the limits or boundaries in which we will experience life. For most of us, we have not thought very much about the definitions that we have of ourselves. That is because mostly the definitions or the way that we define ourselves have been adopted. They've been given to us and we have assimilated them. When we were born with a blank canvas. There was no definition of who we were except for expansive, limitless love. And yet, as we grew up, we started to define ourselves. Maybe it's, I'm not good at math. Maybe it's, I'm clumsy. But with each of those statements, we define the limits in which we get to experience life. I'll give you an example. Let's say I was to say, I am a vegan. In that definition of myself, it limits the culinary experiences I will have. It limits the food that I get to enjoy, digest, ingest. So too, every time we define ourselves, it creates a boundary or a limit of what it is that we will experience on this life journey. So the question is, how are you defining yourself? We do this every day. We reinforce it every day. And we might not be aware that we are doing it, but every time we make a statement that is, I am, anything that follows that is a way we are defining or limiting ourselves. We reinforce it every day in statements such as, oh, that's just my personality. I've always been that way. I come from a long line of. You see where I'm going with this? And yet when we become conscious that each of those statements impacts what we will experience in our life, we choose more carefully how we are defining ourselves. We become conscious of that. And in that place, we change our experiences. We take ownership and responsibility of every one of our experiences, and we become a conscious creator. We have the choice to live within those boundaries or to start returning to that blank canvas. I think of it kind of as we have two choices in life. And if we consider our experience of life as swimming, so we can be swimming in a swimming pool and enjoying, that experience. And the more we define ourselves, the more limits we place on ourselves, it's like we're given a smaller and smaller lane within that swimming pool. And that will change our experience. Not only does it give us less room to move, but it also starts to segregate us from others and the rest of the experiences in the swimming pool. Or we can start to view ourselves and define ourselves as limitless, as expansive, and return to that place of being a limitless expression of love. And then our experience of swimming will be very different. It will be the equivalent of swimming in the ocean, where we get to enjoy the waves. We get to enjoy the flow of nature the connection with the sand, and with every creature that exists in that ocean and everyone else playing in that ocean. That gets to be part of our experience. But it can only be so if we drop the limiting definitions we've had of ourselves. So the invitation that I would give to each and every one today is to become mindful of the I am statements that we use during the day. To also take moments to be present and aware and notice your experience. What is it you are experiencing? Does it feel limiting? And if it does, then you can start to become curious as to where it is that you have defined or created that limitation. What have you decided would be not part of your experience? Or what have you decided would be your only experience? And this is something that we can do with childlike curiosity, not with judgment, not with a sense to, I have to change this, but more with an acceptance, owning that responsibility that, okay, I'm having this limited experience, and therefore it must be because I have defined myself as limited in some way. And what is that? And how do I want to experience it in a different way? I thank you so much for listening to this perspective today. I know that this might be a new perspective for some, and if you stayed with me to the end, I do very, very much appreciate it, and hopefully it gives you something to ponder. And until we speak again, I'm wishing you a limitless experience and a bountiful day. If you would like to work with me personally, my information is below, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have. And I thank you again for spending your precious time today with me.